We talked about Poincare conjecture. There's a guy, he's Russian, Grigori, Perelman. He proved Poincare's conjecture. If you can comment on the proof itself, if that stands out to you as something interesting, or the human story of it, which is he turned down the Fields Medal for the proof. Is there something you find inspiring or insightful about the proof itself or about the man?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I really like about the proof, and partly that's because it's sort of a thing that happens again and again in this book. I mean, I'm writing about geometry and the way it sort of appears in all these kind of real world problems. But it happens so often that the geometry you think you're studying is somehow not enough. You have to go one level higher in abstraction and study a higher level of geometry. And the way that plays out is that, Poincare asks a question about a certain kind of three-dimensional object. Is it the usual three-dimensional space that we know, or is it some kind of exotic thing? And so, of course, this sounds like it's a question about the geometry of the three-dimensional space. But no, Perelman understands. And by the way, in a tradition that involves Richard Hamilton and many other people, like most really important mathematical advances, this doesn't happen alone. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens as the culmination of a program that involves many people. Same with Wiles, by the way. I mean, we talked about Wiles, and I want to emphasize that starting all the way back with Kummer, who I mentioned in the 19th century, but Gerhard Frey and Maser and Ken Ribbit and like many other people are involved in building the other pieces of the arch before you put the keystone in.
We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yes. So what is this idea? The idea is that, well, of course, the geometry of the three-dimensional object itself is relevant, but the real geometry you have to understand is the geometry of the space of all three-dimensional geometries. Mm-hmm. Whoa. You're going up a higher level. Because when you do that, you can say, now let's trace out a path in that space.
Yes.
There's a mechanism called Ricci flow. And again, we're outside my research area, so for all the geometric analysts and differential geometers out there listening to this, I'm doing my best and I'm roughly saying it. So the Ricci flow allows you to say like, okay, let's start from some mystery three-dimensional space, which Poincare would conjecture is essentially the same thing as our familiar three-dimensional space, but we don't know that. And now you let it flow. You sort of like let it move in its natural path according to some almost physical process, and ask where it winds up. And what you find is that it always winds up. You've continuously deformed it. There's that word deformation again. And what you can prove is that the process doesn't stop until you get to the usual three-dimensional space. And since you can get from the mystery thing to the standard space by this process of continually changing and never kind of having any sharp transitions, then the original shape must have been the same as the standard shape. That's the nature of the proof. Now, of course, it's incredibly technical. I think, as I understand it, I think the hard part is proving that the favorite word of AI people, you don't get any singularities along the way. Mm-hmm. But of course, in this context, singularity just means acquiring a sharp kink. Mm-hmm. It just means becoming non-smooth at some point. So
just saying something interesting about formal, about the smooth trajectory through this weird space.
Yeah, but yeah. So what I like about it is that it's just one of many examples of where it's not about the geometry you think it's about. It's about the geometry of all geometries, so to speak. And it's only by kind of like being jerked out of flatland, right? Same idea. It's only by sort of seeing the whole thing globally at once that you can really make progress on understanding like the one thing you thought you were looking at.
It's a romantic question, but what do you think about him turning down the Fields Medal? Is that just, are Nobel Prizes and Fields Medals just a cherry on top of the cake, and really math itself, the process of curiosity, of pulling at the string of the mystery before us, that's the cake, and then the awards are just icing? And clearly I've been fasting and I'm hungry, but but do you think it's tragic, or just a little curiosity that he turned down the medal?
Well, it's interesting because on the one hand, I think it's absolutely true that, right, in some kind of like vast spiritual sense, like awards are not important. Like not important the way that sort of like understanding the universe is important. On the other hand, most people who are offered that prize accept it. It is. So there's something unusual about his choice there. I wouldn't say I see it as tragic. I mean, maybe if I don't really feel like I have a clear picture of why he chose not to take it. I mean, he's not alone in doing things like this. People have sometimes turned down prizes for ideological reasons, but probably more often in mathematics. I mean, I think I'm right in saying that Peter Schulze like turned down sort of some big monetary prize because he just, I mean, I think he at some point you have plenty of money. And maybe you think it sends the wrong message about what the point of doing mathematics is.
I do find that
but most people accept. Most people given a prize, most people take it. I mean, people like to be appreciated. But like I said, we're people.
Yes.
Not that different from most other people.
But the important reminder that turning down the prize serves for me is not that there's anything wrong with the prize, and there's something wonderful about the prize. I think the Nobel Prize is trickier because so many Nobel Prizes are given. First of all, the Nobel Prize often forgets many of the important people throughout history. Second of all, there's like these weird rules to it. That's only 3 people, and some projects have a huge number of people, and it's like this. I don't know. It doesn't kind of highlight the way science is done on some of these projects in the best possible way. But in general, the prizes are great. But what this kind of teaches me and reminds me is sometimes in your life, there'll be moments when the thing that you would really like to do, society would really like you to do, is the thing that goes against something you believe in, whatever that is, some kind of principle, and standing your ground in the face of that. It's something, I believe most people will have a few moments like that in their life, maybe one moment like that, and you have to do it. That's what integrity is. So like, it doesn't have to make sense to the rest of the world, but to stand on that, like to say no. It's interesting because I think.
But do you know that he turned down the prize in service of some principle? Because I don't know that.
Well, yes, that seems to be the inkling, but he has never made it super clear. But the inkling is that he had some problems with the whole process of mathematics that includes awards, like this hierarchies and the reputations and all those kinds of things, and individualism that's fundamental to American culture. He probably, because he visited the United States quite a bit, that he probably, it's like all about experiences. And he may have had, some parts of academia, some pockets of academia can be less than inspiring perhaps sometimes because of the individual egos involved. Not academia, people in general, smart people with egos. And if you interact with a certain kinds of people, you can become cynical too easily. I'm one of those people that I've been really fortunate to interact with incredible people at MIT and academia in general, but I've met some assholes. And I tend to just kind of, when I run into difficult folks, I just kind of smile and send them all my love and just kind of go around. But for others, those experiences can be sticky. Like they can become cynical about the world when folks like that exist. So he may have become a little bit cynical about the process of science.